Help support AMTV by becoming a patron, an AMTV staff member, and following us over on Twitter.
Hello guys, it's Adam Martyn here, and welcome back to another video. Now today, we're going to be talking about an aspect of TV that maybe not everybody uses, but I'd argue in recent years some of us definitely take for granted whether we actually need them or not, and that of course is the feature of subtitles. I think we're all familiar with what subtitles are. Just in case anyone isn't, subtitles is a feature on media, whether that's television, film, streaming sites, whatever, where you basically get a transcript of what you're watching. This is mainly, it was mainly developed for those who are particularly hard of hearing, who can't hear very well. It gives them an option to read what's on the screen. It's proved quite valuable for members of that community. But again, what I mean is in recent years, and I know I've done this, whether you're watching with friends or on your own, some people just find it more convenient to have subtitles on, whether that's just to check in with them every now and then to make sure they're hearing things correctly, or some people argue some TV shows or films are so badly sound mixed or inaudible that sound titles is a necessity. I've personally done it a lot when I've been with friends. If there's a big group of us and we all want to talk during whatever the program is or whatever the film is, we stick subtitles on, so even when there's a lot of commotion going on, we can still follow along what's happening. But I found this very interesting article from RxTV. Now, I've covered articles from these guys before. You should definitely go and check out their website. Lots of interesting stuff, particularly if you have a keen interest in television. However, they say here, fewer TV channels required to carry subtitles in 2024, which, when you read that headline, that's quite shocking, because some may say, well, what about, again, that community of those who are particularly hard of hearing? Are they going to struggle, etc.? But let's break this article down. Let's see what we can figure out. In 2024, 83 TV channels will need to offer subtitles, audio description, and in-vision signing. That's down from 93 channels. That's down from 93 channels in 2023. So, okay, 10 less than this year, 83 on the whole, compared to the, wide variety of TV stuff we have. That doesn't seem that much, but there's a few key factors to point out already. So they have to offer not only subtitles, but audio description, which is, helpful for those who are hard of sight, who are particularly blind or severely visually impaired, and in-vision signing, again, a great way for those who rely on BSL or the British Sign Language, all these access options for those who can consume the television, but less channels are obliged to do it. It says the reduction is led by children's channels due to a combination of declining audience share and broadcasters closing channels down. Now, we've talked about this a few times, like, CITV is closing down to make way for a kids section on ITVX later this year. CBBC is going to be moved online. And for things like Nickelodeon, Cartoon Network, etc., they were huge in the 90s, early 2000s, I remember that. But it mentions declining audience share with the sheer amount of competition, and particularly for children when they've got options such as YouTube or, anything like that, the various gadgets and tech stuff they can have these days. Traditional, watching on a TV on those specific channels, it is happening less and less. So it doesn't surprise me that this reduction for access services is being led by children's channels. But let's continue. The rules governing which UK channels must provide subtitles, audio description, and in-vision signing are set out in Ofcom's Access Services Code, which has a link you can click on to read. Ofcom has conducted a mid-year review of all broadcasters to determine if they meet the criteria to come under the code and be required to carry access services in the coming year. Details of all the channels on Ofcom's list are available below, and we'll get to that in just a second. So that implies, not every channel from the get-go is obliged. It's not a requirement to provide these access needs. Now, some of them do. When we look at this list later, you might think, oh, that channel's not on the list. Some channels that aren't required to or obliged to still will provide those access needs, which I think is really good, but not all of them do. It says Nickelodeon, Boomerang, and Cartoon Network are among the channels that will no longer have a subtitling requirement. CITV is removed from the list as the channel is closing down this autumn. That makes sense. So again, that implies that even though they're not obliged, those children's channels, Nickelodeon, Cartoon Network, etc., they may still continue to provide subtitles in 2024 onwards. We don't know as of yet. We don't know the factors in that. Incidentally, other children's channels that have been removed from the list have an uncertain future. Warner Bros. Discovery, owner of Cartoon Network and Boomerang, is already adjusting its children's channel portfolio elsewhere in the world. However, WBD hasn't yet confirmed its plans for the UK. Meanwhile, CBBC, which remains on the Ofcom list for 2024, also faces a future shift online. Yes, and that shift online is rumoured to happen around 2025. Again, we've had no direct confirmation of that, but that's rumoured as to when that will be happening. And you might think, well, why are all these other children's channels no longer required, but CBBC is? I guess you have to think about the wider picture of it. CBBC is, of course, part of the BBC, which is the UK's oldest and arguably leading national broadcaster. It's a broadcaster that most people in the UK, I know not everyone, but most people in the UK do consume in some form or another. So I'd imagine the vast majority, if not all of the BBC's television properties, will still be required when we look at this list to provide these access services. However, Ofcom is planning to widen the scope of the Access Services Code to include streaming services so that viewers don't miss out on subtitles, audio description, and in-vision signing if a service goes online only, which of course more services are starting to do away from traditional television going online. In 2024, 70 channels must carry 100% of Ofcom's current annual targets for subtitling, signing, and audio description, as well as any alternative requirements, which is level 1, it says. The remaining 13 channels of the 83 have been assigned a lower tier, either level 2 or level 3, and this means they can offer fewer subtitled programs, and it has the full details below. So we're going to get the table. So let's dive into the different levels. So level 1 says full requirements. For any channel that's been on air for more than 10 years, full requirement means 10% of programs must carry audio description. 5% of programs must be available with in-vision signing. BBC channels have 100% subtitles target. So every program on a BBC channel, regardless whether it's BBC 1, 2, 3, 4, and all the others, they're aiming for that 100% subtitles target. ITV, STV, UTV, and Channel 4 must offer subtitles on 90% of their programs, and all of the channels must offer subtitles during at least 80% of their program hours. So the BBC is the only one that's got to do 100, but ITV and Channel 4, they're not far behind with 90, and everyone else is 80. So I'll put the list up on screen. It'll gradually scroll down. All the ones you'd expect, again, all the BBC ones are here. 1, 2, 3, 4. News, Parliament, BBC Scotland as well. As mentioned, CBBC's here. CBeebies is as well. So yeah, that BBC name pulling in there. The Channel 3 services, as it says, so ITV, STV, and UTV. All the other numbered ITV channels are here, as is ITVB. Channel 4 and 47, E4, E4 Extra, Film 4, More 4. I am surprised E4 Extra's on there, because that channel is only a year old, and it said earlier, didn't it, that for any channel that's been on air for 10 years, full requirement means 10% has to have audio description, 5% has to have in-vision signing. So, considering it's not been on the air for 10 years, are those percentages reduced even further? I suppose you'd have to read the Ofcom Access Services Code to find out that specific detail. You have Channel 5 as well and all its subsidiaries, 5 Action, Select, 5 Star, 5 USA. Then you get more of the stuff you find like on Freeview and some of the other satellite channels as well. A lot of the Sky services come under here. In fact, I think most of the Sky services come under this level 1 bracket, including the sports channels, etc. Other stuff like Challenge, one of my favourite channels, the quiz show channel, that's on level 1. There's Pick, Alibi, Dave, Drama, TNT Sports 1, 2, and 3. Okay, so that's a whole 70 channels fall under that bracket. So level 2 says full requirements for signing an audio description, implying it's that 10%, 5% thing again, but it says 66% of subtitling, so 2/3 of the programming has to be subtitled. There's only one channel on this level, and it's S4C, which of course is the Welsh language version of Channel 4. I understand why it's on here, obviously there will be people who speak Welsh who will maybe need subtitles, so you have to have it, but 66%, I am surprised S4C's not in the level 1 category, gotta be honest. And then level 3 says full requirements for signing an audio description, so again the 10%, 5%, but only 33% of subtitling, so just 1/3 of programming to be subtitled ideally. And there is 12 channels on this list, so there's CNN, Discovery, Discovery History, Discovery Turbo, D-Max, Food Network, HGTV, Investigation Discovery, Quest, Quest Red, Really, and TLC. So again, a lot of these channels in this list as a whole across the 3 levels are stuff that is more so widely accessible. It's on a lot of the Freeview set-top boxes. You've obviously got the main terrestrial stuff, and I think some of these are satellite channels you can pick up here and there, but I guess they're going for the ones that have the most audience share, the ones that are viewed by the most people, and then they roughly calculate, well, if this many people are watching that, X amount might need subtitles and stuff like that. You might already be thinking, why on earth why shouldn't subtitles, at least subtitles, why shouldn't subtitles just be a constant, 100% across every TV channel there is out there? I'll break that down in just a little second, but just to finish off the article, it says Nickelodeon, Nicktoons, Boomerang, Cartoonito, and Cartoon Network are removed from the requirements. However, Nick Jr. and Nick Jr. 2 remain obliged to carry subtitles. Oh, I wonder why that is. Maybe because it's for younger viewers and it helps with their reading. I'm not sure. Familiar channels not required to offer access services, but they may do on a voluntary basis include ones such as GB News, Great Movies, Legend, and Talking Pictures. So with these examples, as it says, they're not required, but they may do on a voluntary basis. I don't watch these channels. I'm not sure if they do. You might be able to let me know in the comments. I always think it's good if they can. And just the last little thing it says, in 2021, Sky announced a scheme that would turn on the subtitles by default. The move followed the publication of research that indicated subtitles could improve children's literacy skills. Okay, so that may make the case for Nick Jr. and Nick Jr. too. If kids are not only watching programs, but they're seeing the words that they hear on the screen, that may help them read, learn how to, spell and to speak, etc. So that's not a bad idea. And if they've done a study into that, that makes sense. But then if it's meant to help literacy skills, then you're axing it on Nickelodeon, Cartoon Network, etc. I know they've cited declining audience share, which makes sense, but if it's meant to help literacy, then why not carry it on? So again, this big question of why doesn't every channel do it? And I'm only saying this, looking at the logistics of it, I'm absolutely in favour of 100% access needs for everything, or at least the option. As someone who has a degree of visual impairment myself, there may come a time in my life, for example, where I need to rely on audio description. So having that service accessible to me would be vital. So I'm absolutely in favour of it. I'm not saying we should cut back, but a potential reason maybe why is, these access services, they're like anything, there is a cost to them. There's a cost to run. Like for subtitles, you have to pay someone to handle the subtitles, especially if you're doing it across 100% of your programs, you're going to have to hire many people to cover that, I assume. Things like audio description, again, you need to hire someone who will provide that audio description, someone to essentially narrate what's happening, which I imagine can be really challenging for live programs. All of these really. Like when you think about a live program, I've seen it before with the news. Some people say, oh, the subtitles, if they are hearing, if they're able to hear, people say, oh, well, the subtitles are, 3 sentences behind what the presenter's actually saying. Well, you think about, imagine you're sat there at a keyboard and you're watching this live broadcast. You've got to type up every single word the presenter's saying to the best of your ability. Even the fastest, I can touch type, but even the fastest typist in the world, that's so much concentration. You've got to listen to what's being said, type on the keys, don't make any mistakes. It's difficult, especially on live programs. Same with audio describing. You've got to narrate exactly what's happening if it could change on a dime. I imagine it's the same with BSL as well. You're interpreting what's happening on a whim. With pre-recorded programs, it's a little easier. Subtitles, the producers can just give the transcript to whoever's in charge of subtitling them. Audio description, they could receive a copy of the program in advance to narrate over. InVision signing or BSL, same sort of thing. But all of these, whether pre-recorded or live, will have a cost. And at a time when the television industry is being squeezed more than ever, and particularly some of the broadcasters, some more than others, it's sad to say that if they do get dropped from this list, those who are on it, the BBC, ITV, Channel 4, they have to do it. This is part of Ofcom's requirements, their obligations. If they don't do it, then the consequences will be dire. So they have to do it. But for those broadcasters that have been dropped off the list, Nickelodeon, Cartoon Network, etc., and others where it becomes more of a voluntary basis, if they're looking to save money, then access services, I'm sad to say, it breaks my heart, but access services might be the first thing to go. You could say morally they should. In this day and age, we have the technology, we have the means to provide all these access services, but from a cost point of view, they might not. I don't know. Again, if you're a viewer of, say, Nickelodeon, Cartoon Network, or some of the other channels I mentioned towards the end of that article, like Legend, Talking Pictures, if you can find out for me if they do still provide, well, they might do for now, I don't know. But if you let me know if they provide these access services on at least some of their programming. I know it doesn't have to be all, but at least some. Because I think if to lose access services entirely is not only a shame for those who need them, but it's also a shame for those who prefer to have them on. As I said, in the age of streaming, I know more and more people leave subtitles on, whether they're streaming on like Netflix or Disney Plus, or they're just watching a program. So, but obviously the hardest impact will be on those access communities, those who are hard of hearing, those who are visually impaired, those who require or rely on BSL, and so on. But yeah, I wanted to talk about it because I found it very interesting how key parts of telly, because you've got to think subtitles at the very least next year in 2024 will have been around for at least 50 years, because I think they came about around the time, when CFAX first came in the early to mid-70s. So 50 years, you take these features for granted. We take subtitles and all that stuff for granted. But if it was to disappear, especially from traditional television, it's just like another step in this argument that traditional television is gradually losing parts of itself and is gradually fading out. And it's sad to see. But yes, let me know your thoughts in the comments about this. Do you think Ofcom is right in reducing the amount of channels that are obliged to carry these services, or do you think it should be the other way? Do you think more channels should be obliged to? Do you think maybe all channels should be obliged to? Let me know your thoughts about this in the comments down below. But if you enjoyed this video, please do leave a like on it. It really does help us out here on the channel, and subscribe here at AMTV for more videos like this and other sort of stuff as well. We'll have more content for you very soon. In the meantime, I've been Adam Martyn from AMTV. Thank you for joining me, and I'll see you next time.
Thank you to our patrons for helping to support the show, and a special thank you to Macra, Hooks Media, Ben Freeman, Ethan Carberry-Holt, Bruce Danton, Globe of Reviews, Derek Chambers, Sean Knock, Dord Khan, Traffy, Liam Domain, and Keith Myers, our AMTV staff members.